Shiny Pokemon are one of the rarest things to find in Pokemon. For a while, it was 1 in 8,192 odds to find a shiny Pokemon. Nowadays, it's 1 in 4,096, which is simply double the odds with other miscellaneous methods. You've definitely seen the video, so I'll be brief. There's no way to determine when you'll get a shiny Pokemon. Sometimes it takes a few encounters to find a shiny Pokemon, other times it takes thousands of encounters to find one. So there is no absolute way to see how many encounters you would have to do to find a shiny Pokemon, as encountering 4,096 Pokemon does not guarantee you anything. Or does it? Believe it or not, there are actual ways to determine when you will get a shiny Pokemon. While the specific encounter may vary, there is indeed a way to calculate how many encounters we would have to do before encountering a shiny Pokemon. Enter binomial distribution. Binomial distribution is something that is used in statistics to account for the probability of something happening depending on the amount of trials you would have to do. To figure out the true probability of finding a shiny Pokemon, we would have to do the equation of 1 minus 1 divided by 4,096 PEMDAS first. This number would be simplified to a decimal to nearly a whole number, and then we would have to use the power of a specific number. This would be our encounters we have done so far. Afterwards, we would multiply the number by 100 and subtract by 100 while ignoring the negative aspect of the number completely. The main inspiration for this video was due to me taking 1,470 eggs to hatch a shiny Fuecoco. Without accepting them, just unlucky, I looked up the quote-unquote true odds of shiny Pokemon and found this Reddit post made 12 years ago. Unfortunately, it was the only post that talked about this. I'm making this video for all the shiny hunters in the world to determine that if they're just unlucky. Now, enough chit chat, let's do this. So the odds of hatching a shiny Pokemon with Masuda method and the shiny charm are 1 in 512. Now here's the interesting part. If you hatched 512 eggs, the odds of hatching at least one shiny Pokemon is 63.25%, which signifies it's actually uncommon to go over odds. Now, if you hatch 355 eggs, the odds of hatching a shiny Pokemon would actually be 50%, which makes 355 a good benchmark when using Masuda method hunting. This would mean if you have Hunter passing 355, that means you have lost a little coin flip, which is unfortunate, but RNG happens in Pokemon all the time, so what's new really? Now here's the juicy stuff you've been probably waiting for. There's actually a certain amount of encounters you would actually need to hit to guaranteed to have a 100% chance to hatch at least one shiny Pokemon via the Masuda method. And that number is 5,066 eggs you would need to hatch. However, if you hatched 4,504 eggs, your odds of hatching at least one shiny Pokemon is 99.99%, which is not 100%. So it's a differential of 562 eggs to make a 0.01 difference, which is fascinating. Like I said before, if you hatched 5,066 eggs, that means you'll guarantee at least one shiny Pokemon now or before then. And it's statistically impossible to go past that and not have a single shiny Pokemon. Now, to answer how unlucky I am with this shiny Fuecoco hunt, I hatched 1,470 eggs, so the odds of me not having a shiny Pokemon at that point was 5.65%, which isn't really surprising considering I played a VGC game one time and I missed Heat Wave on both opponents, which is a 1% chance of happening. But why stop at Masuda method? Why not do 1 in 1,365 odds, 1 in 4,096 odds, and the classic 1 in 8,192 odds? But before we move on with the video,
you're all greeted by the monkeys of prosperity. They ask you to subscribe to the channel as we are on the road to 10,000 subscribers. You can also become a member for exclusive videos. I also have a Discord server if you want to join it. The link will be in the description below. However, if you do subscribe to the channel, may the monkeys of prosperity give you good luck. Now back to the video.
Starting at 1 in 1365 odds, the odds of finding a shiny Pokemon if you encountered 1,365 is 63.23%. Notice the pattern? Now, if you encounter 946 Pokemon, your odds would be a 50.01% chance to find at least one shiny Pokemon. And the number of encounters you would need to have to guarantee at least finding one shiny Pokemon is 13,514 encounters to guarantee at least finding one shiny Pokemon. Now for 1 in 4096 odds, and this is where the numbers start to be a bit too big. The numbers won't be exact, but will be a rough estimate. The odds of finding a shiny Pokemon if you encounter 4,096 Pokemon is 63.23%. Notice a pattern? If you encounter 2,836 Pokemon, your odds would be 50% exactly this time. And the number of encounters you would have to go to guarantee at least finding one shiny Pokemon would be roughly 41,000 encounters. Now for 1 in 8,192 odds. If you encountered 8,192 Pokemon, your odds of finding a shiny Pokemon, at least one, would be 63.21%. Very, very interesting. Now, if you encountered 5,678 Pokemon, your odds of finding a shiny would be 50%. And to guarantee finding at least one shiny Pokemon, you would roughly have to encounter 82,000 Pokemon to guarantee finding at least one shiny Pokemon. Now, the interesting part is if you encountered 18,861 Pokemon, your odds of finding at least one shiny Pokemon at this point would be 90%. So the fact that 64,000 encounters roughly make a 10% difference is wild to me, and you'd have to be extremely unlucky to go past 18,861 encounters realistically. Now, what did we learn from this? Well, if you hit the odds numbers, so like 8,192 encounters for example, your odds of finding at least one shiny Pokemon is always 63%. And the number of encounters that would signify you getting a 50% chance of finding at least one shiny Pokemon would be a good benchmark, and it would signify whether you won/lost the coin flip to finding a shiny. Now, if you want to find a shiny with all this information you just learned, here's some advice to keep you proficient. From Masuna method, if you hatch 250 eggs per day, that means it would take 20 days max to hatch a shiny Pokemon. If you're hunting at 1 in 1365 odds, if you did 500 encounters per day, it would take 27 days max to find a shiny. If you're hunting at 1 in 4096 odds, if you still did 500 encounters per day, it would take 82 days max to find a shiny Pokemon. And finally, if you hunted at 1 in 8,192 odds, maintain those 500 encounters, it would take 164 days maximum to find a shiny Pokemon. Now anyways, that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, as this took a lot of math to figure out. And comment down below, what is your favorite shiny hunting method? Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.